Counting on Jinger Duggar reveals hoarding food in bathroom. Counting on alums, Jeremy Vuolo and his wife, Jinger Duggar, opened up on their podcast recently, and the TLC stars spoke about growing up in a large family. During their chat, she revealed that she learned about hoarding food at a young age. Read on to find out more. TLC alum Jinger Duggar knew hardship counting on fans saw a happy family on TLC, but it never showed the real hardships of keeping food on the table for 19 kids. Being raised with so many siblings meant that fun times were easy to find. Someone was always around to talk to or play some games. However, many hardships also arrived. Jinger Duggar doesn't raise a lot of children like some of her siblings do. And perhaps that's because her husband can't imagine a family life like that. Additionally, the author of Becoming Free indeed went through some hardship as a child. In fact, the kids never knew if there would be enough food to go around. Counting on alum explains bathroom hoarding. TLC never showed hungry kids stashing their food in the bathroom so they could make sure only they got to eat it. Allegedly, Michelle Duggar knew about it and tried to stop them. Admittedly, it seemed disgusting, according to Jeremy's wife. Jinger Duggar started by explaining that the family fell into 3 groups of kids. The older kids included her, then the middle children, and finally, the young ones. However, all of them grew up in an expanding family, the size of which seemed unique. Discussing food, the TLC alum said, "I remember a few times when we were very young, some of my siblings would take their plate of food. Get ready for this, it's disgusting. In the bathroom. They would carry it and put it on the bathroom counter. My mom would be like, 'Don't do that.' They're going to eat it. That's literally what they thought. I'm not going to be able to eat my food because somebody's going to take it, and we might not have enough for seconds today." Talking about bathrooms, it wasn't easy waiting for a chance to get hot water with so many bodies needing washing. Some of their rentals in the earlier years didn't have a lot of bathrooms for such a large family. What are your thoughts about Jinger Duggar confessing that she and her siblings used to hoard their food and eat it in the bathroom? Were you aware that the family of Michelle and Jim Bob Duggar faced so many hardships as kids? Shout out in the comments below, and come back here for all your Counting on Family news. Jinger Duggar Vuolo, a former star of the hit reality TV show Counting On and part of the famous Duggar family, has often shared intimate details about her upbringing. With 19 children, the Duggar household was far from ordinary, governed by strict religious values, homeschooling, and traditional gender roles. As Jinger grew older, she began to distance herself from some of the more conservative practices. But one shocking revelation she made recently has captured the public's attention: hoarding food in the bathroom during her teenage years. This bizarre behavior wasn't simply a matter of quirkiness or a teenage rebellion. It hinted at deeper, more complex issues related to the strict upbringing she experienced. Growing up Duggar, to understand the gravity of Jinger's revelation, one must first dive into the context of her childhood. The Duggar family became household names thanks to their TLC shows, 19 Kids and Counting On, which showcased their devout adherence to the ultra-conservative Christian sect, the Institute in Basic Life Principles, IBLP, founded by Bill Gothard. The IBLP promoted rigid gender roles, modest dress codes, and a strict obedience to authority. For the Duggars, this meant that every aspect of their lives was dictated by their belief system, from the clothes they wore to the way they ate. Growing up in such a structured and heavily scrutinized environment, the Duggar children had little autonomy. Mealtime, like everything else, was regimented. With so many mouths to feed, food was often served in large portions, but there was an unspoken sense of scarcity in the house. Each meal was prepared with the understanding that every child would get their share, but there wasn't room for indulgence or waste. For Jinger, this created an unhealthy relationship with food from a young age. In a household of 21 people, including her parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, the sheer volume of food required was astronomical. With limited individual portions and the constant need to make everything stretch, the children were likely acutely aware of their portions and the availability of food. For Jinger, this awareness seemed to morph into anxiety, leading her to hoard food in secret. The revelation Jinger's confession about hiding food in the bathroom wasn't a lighthearted anecdote, but rather a deeply personal admission that spoke volumes about her emotional state at the time. In a recent interview while promoting her memoir, Becoming Free Indeed, Jinger explained how she would sneak food into the bathroom and hide it away, sometimes eating it in secret later when she felt hungry or anxious. Hoarding food is often a coping mechanism for individuals who feel a lack of control or stability in their lives. For Jinger, it may have been one of the few ways she could exert some agency over her environment. The act of taking food and hiding it could have given her a sense of comfort, a feeling that she had something to turn to when things felt overwhelming. But why would a child growing up in a well-fed, middle-class family feel the need to engage in such behavior? A life of strict control. The Duggars' adherence to the teachings of the IBLP meant that their children were raised in an environment of constant surveillance and strict rules. From a young age, Jinger and her siblings were taught to follow a specific set of guidelines regarding how they dressed, behaved, and even thought. The patriarchal structure of the Duggar family further exacerbated this, with Jim Bob Duggar acting as the ultimate authority figure. Decisions were often made for the children, and their autonomy was severely limited. Girls in the Duggar family were expected to dress modestly, avoid physical contact with boys, and refrain from pursuing higher education or careers outside of the home. They were groomed to be wives and mothers, following in the footsteps of their mother, Michelle, whose entire life revolved around raising children and submitting to her husband. For someone like Jinger, who exhibited a more rebellious streak, these restrictions were stifling. The pressure to conform was immense, and it's easy to see how Jinger might have developed anxiety around food. In a home where individuality was suppressed and obedience was prized above all else, food could have represented one of the few things she had any control over. Hoarding food in the bathroom might have been her way of reclaiming a small sense of power in a world where she had so little. Emotional deprivation and control. Many psychologists argue that hoarding, particularly of food, is a sign of deeper emotional issues, often related to deprivation, whether emotional or physical. In Jinger's case, the emotional deprivation seemed to stem from the lack of autonomy and the constant pressure to conform to her family's expectations. While the Duggar children were loved and cared for in a material sense, the emotional landscape of their lives was fraught with tension, especially when it came to individual expression. Food, which is so often tied to comfort and emotional well-being, can become a battleground for control in such environments. Children raised in homes where they feel powerless or constantly monitored may turn to food as a source of comfort or rebellion. In Jinger's case, the act of hoarding food may have been an unconscious attempt to assert control over her circumstances. The secrecy of it all, the sneaking food into the bathroom, hiding it away, and consuming it when no one was watching, provided a form of solace, a way to cope with the overwhelming structure imposed on her life. This behavior might also point to feelings of guilt or shame surrounding food, common in environments where consumption is closely monitored or controlled. In a home where resources are carefully rationed and where indulgence is seen as sinful or excessive, the desire for more can become an internal struggle. Jinger's hoarding may have been a manifestation of that struggle, a way to secretly indulge in what was forbidden or limited. The long-term impact. As Jinger has grown older and moved away from the Duggar household, she has become increasingly open about the challenges she faced growing up. Now married to Jeremy Vuolo, a former soccer